I'm here to talk about design meets sustainable business. And my name is Anita Steinstad, and I work at Variant Bergen in Norway. And my title there is strategic designer. But I'm not so bothered about titles. I'm more concerned about what I do and how I do it. Today I'm going to talk about design, generally, design principles that I think all designers really should think about and focus on, no matter what type of designer they are. But my talk consists of my backstory to why I'm choosing this topic, so why I'm here, and why design is important in business. And then I'm going to introduce a framework that I've created. So it's the very first time I'm showing it to anyone, so be nice. I call it an experience. So I've worked 24 years as a designer, and both in the UK and in Norway, in public and private sector. So I've met quite a lot of different companies and organizations, and so I've witnessed what are their internal struggles and what are the key elements that they're focusing on today, and things that are bothering them. And another thing is that I'm quite passionate about creating better solutions for people and our planet. And it's something that I think generally all designers should care about and focus on, because we've got superpower to do something about it. I'm also quite a curious person, so I like learning new things. So, for instance, testing out new frameworks and getting feedback from others, I think that's really great. Okay, so as a designer, I often meet obstacles along the way. And one of them that I find quite frustrating is that when you're working on a really good design or innovative concept, based on insights, based on knowledge from really clever people, we often meet that profit overrules good design and innovative ideas. And this is part of making it challenging to drive sustainable decisions. The whole concept of profit overrules everything else. So that's like basically the reason why I'm standing in here. I think it's really important, and I want to overcome this obstacle. So there's an overload of information, not just from clients that I'm working with and other key partners. It's also as a designer and as an employee. I'm finding this overload of information of where to begin in the whole sort of sustainability journey. And I think a lot of us feel the same way. It's quite overwhelming, all the information and the jargons and where to start. And not also where to begin, but what to do. So like a classical thing is that, a lot of companies, they focus on climate reporting, which is great. We have to do it. But that shouldn't be the drive behind why we're doing what we're doing. So I actually call this the sustainability dilemma. I think this causes a lot of problems for many of us, not just myself, and also leads to greenwashing. So a couple of years ago, I was in a situation where myself and all my colleagues in an office, we had to put down the office basically, and these things can happen in anyone's sort of working journey, there was two different ways I could go with this. I could take the severance package and go on like an awesome holiday, or I could do something a bit clever with that money. And I'm actually quite grateful in many ways that I even though it was a negative experience at first, being in a situation where you can't work where you want to work, but at the same time very grateful that I was given this opportunity, because then I could learn a bit more. And so what I did was I invested this money, instead of going on a wicked holiday, I invested in something that I want to learn more about, and that was to understand how decision makers make those decisions, profit that overrules design and innovative ideas. I want to understand it a bit better. And so what I did was that I enrolled on an executive master's program in sustainable business in the Norwegian School of Economics. And these two professors here, fairly known in Norway, they're called Lars Jakob Pedersen and Sveinung Jørgensen, and they helped me through this journey. I think I was the only designer that was at this executive master's program. And so it was really interesting for me to be there and observe the conversations that a lot of decision makers and directors are dealing with today when it comes to climate change. So as part of this course, we were introduced to several theories and several great economic minds, and one of them is a person called Alex Edmans. And he's a professor of finance at London Business School, and he's written loads of books, and one of them is Grow the Pie. So basically, in Alex Edmans, he's one of the economists that have inspired my journey. One of the things that he talks a lot about in his research, and he's studied loads of different businesses. What he's seen is that his research supports the conclusion that companies prioritizing sustainability, innovation, and employee well-being tend to achieve stronger financial performance over time. Now, a classical example we can take is Patagonia, but there's so many more of them. And I find this really inspiring because I don't believe that, of course, profit's really important. We need a wage, we need to survive and pay bills, but that's not what drives us. So moving forward, just to solve, I won't have time to talk too much about sustainable business here, but one thing is that you can, as a takeaway, is the triple bottom line, which probably a lot of you have read about and heard about. And that's basically the balance between people, planet, and profit, and the equal balance between the three is what makes a product or a service or business model sustainable. But the true fact is that sustainable business is about replacing outdated, harmful practices with new and clever models that balance profit, people, and the planet. So the idea is that you're not necessarily supposed to change your whole business model. You keep the business model that's not harmful, that's working, and then you swap it with a sustainable business model and you test that out. And there's loads of them. And a typical one would be sharing economy. So no longer owning your own products, but renting or leasing or subscription deals. So you're sharing more than you're owning each of your own products. So that's a very typical one that's often used. But the key is all businesses that operate with this focus in mind, it's because they have a purpose. They're purpose-driven. And I was inspired about what David was saying earlier today. He was talking about small purposes, and it got me thinking, because I was like, actually, yeah, it is loads of different small purposes. It doesn't have to be one big purpose. So it got me thinking a bit. Well, see what you guys think after you've seen this. So here's an example for those of you that aren't familiar with this company. It's really, really inspiring. I recommend that you Google afterwards. And they're called Interface. And Ray Anderson, he's passed away now, but he was an industrialist, and he had this massive, big responsibility running this business with producing carpets, and he knew that, we're actually going the wrong way. We're going the wrong direction with how we're running the world. And as the founder of this company, I need to do something about it. So in 1994, him and a team of his employees, they launched Mission Zero. So the whole concept there, think about what I was just saying earlier on about that you're keeping the business model that's working, but you're swapping what's not working. So they wanted to carry on designing carpets and producing carpets. But instead of swapping the entire big carpet in big offices, they just took the part that was broken and swapped it with the tile. And that's where this concept of, switching from full carpet replacements to modular carpets. what's great about this, you were reducing waste by 90%. Now that's much more motivational for employees than like, whoo, we're making loads of money, right? So, and it's innovative. It gives, there's a certain freedom that comes by running a business in this way, because then more people, more members of staff want to do the same thing and come up with even more innovative ideas like this. So Interface, they built what I would say a sustainable culture, not a climate reporting culture. And this is the key thing that I observed amongst my fellow students when I was studying, was that they were trapped into like climate reporting because of EU regulations and loads of other regulations. And of course we have to do that, we have to measure it, but it's not much fun in that. We have to bring in the fun and sustainability. So Anderson was inspired by circular design, and I think that should be more actionable, innovative, fun, and embedded into daily operations. So what's all this got to do with design? So as a designer, the only designer that was on this course, I was thinking, this is quite interesting. There's loads of things that we do as designers every day that we maybe don't consider could have a huge impact in the way that we're working. So basically, communicating ideas and information clear through visualization is a key thing that we do. And I want to talk through some design principles that I see helps, how we can work together with other cross-disciplinary teams. Now, another element is the empathy need finding. We do this all the time. We need to understand the people that we're designing for, what their needs are, what their challenges are, what obstacles are they meeting. And we use a visual communication to understand that and for others to understand it. We simplify. We take the complex information and we try and simplify it so it's easier for other people to understand. That's one of the things that I think is problematic with sustainability, is that it's information overload. And I think, designers can help communicate that much better. We study human behavior, interesting what Virga was talking about earlier on, which is really important to identify patterns and opportunities. Form and function. I hear a lot of people say function over form, but form and function to me go hand in hand. It's equally as important. You need to make and design products and services and processes to be desirable, or else people won't use it. I've used loads of functional products before where they haven't considered the aesthetics or the form of it, and then I stopped using it. So it's really important to think about that. How does it actually look? And then problem solving. I'm not saying that this is only designers that do, loads of, no matter what background you come from, you're problem solving. But it's something that we have top of mind when we're working every day. And then finally, we experiment and we test what we do. We're really curious to find out, do people like what we're creating? And why don't they like it? How can I make it even better? And if you're a designer and you don't focus on that, then you need to go back to the drawing board, because that last bit is very, very important. So bear this in mind when I'm going to introduce to you a new idea. So Simon Sinek, I hope most of you are familiar with him. I very, very often used the golden circle theory in loads of different types of projects I work on, because it's so simple. I think the golden circle is a really good example of a simple idea, form and function, and it helps organizations to understand why they do what they do. And this principle I've used in branding, and I've used it with product development, and I think it works in so many different ways. But what's really unique about it, and the reason why I'm using this as inspiration, is because most companies, if you start with asking them what they do, they can easily say what they do. And they can also say how they do it. But as soon as you ask them, why do you do what you do? You'll maybe get 10, 15, 20 different answers from employees from the same company. So we need to find an alignment on what is the purpose of why we are doing what we're doing. And that's the key question, why? So what happens when design meets sustainable business? And these are my takeaways, and this is how I've sort of digested all the information that I've learned from, sustainable businesses and how to bring forward the good theories from all these economic minds that I've been inspired by, like Alex Edmonds. So what I would like to do is to introduce to you for the first time this framework, which isn't called the Golden Circle, but it's called the Verdant Circle. And I've been really cheeky and I put a trademark on it. Apparently you're allowed to do that, but we'll see if I have to remove it. But verdant, that means green, lush, and full of life. Metaphorically also means something that's new and fresh. So I feel like this, for me anyway, this framework, it sort of sums up what this is about. So building on from what Simon Sinek was doing with the circle, we still have to start with the why, the purpose of what is it we're doing and why. And then we move on to the process, also how, and then what. So the goal here is to align leadership and key stakeholders. And when I'm saying key stakeholders, I mean employees, I mean clients, partners, the whole ecosystem when I'm talking about this, board members, all decision makers. And we also need to I recommend to kickstart a sustainable, purpose-driven organizations that gathers a team of people passionate to the cause. So a really good example is actually Variant, where I'm working. The people that are working with sustainability there, they're not told you have to work with this. They are all passionate people that are just really interested and keen to kickstart how can we drive sustainability in our own organization. And I find it really inspiring. I think they've done a lot of really great things. But I think you need these champions to drive engagement and help implement the Verdant Circle framework. So that's my first kickstart to how I would use this framework. So you start with the why. Why does our organization exist beyond profit? That's got to be key, because profit, that's a result. That's not what drives you. It doesn't. Yeah, it's great knowing that I've got a wage when I wake up in the morning and I can pay the bills. But that's not what gets me out to go to work. So we need to find out what is the key, sustainability purpose that drives us. And I think that should be, it's not just a general purpose. I think sustainability needs to be at the top for this to work. So you start with creating a one-sentence sustainability purpose statement. And as you can see on the right-hand side, I've created a template that can be used for this. There's many different ways you can do it, but I often find templates can help to create sentences and come up with new names. But you basically start off with assembling a cross-disciplinary team to create one or more purpose statements. So it's nice to maybe have 2 or 3 different ones that you can A/B test later on, right? And then you develop, as a guideline, you can develop real-life narratives based on stakeholders' needs and concerns today. So what you need to do is for instance, with personas or understanding situations, you need to sort of use narratives to help you discuss, to make that discussion for what is the actual, what should the statement be about. But it's about today. And then moving forward, you can illustrate future scenarios to explore possibilities. You're looking at the facts today, and then you're moving into scenarios. And these are like guidances to help you to create this purpose statement. Now, an example of, I've just tested this myself, DNB, which is Norway's largest bank, they have not written this. So I've not spoken to anyone at DNB. I've just tested this out. So I use them as a guinea pig. So for instance, I've written, we drive sustainable change, which is the core belief, by financing and guiding businesses through the climate transition. How you achieve it, because we believe in creating lasting value for both society and the environment, bigger impact or values. Now, wouldn't that be amazing if the largest bank in DNB used this as their purpose for why they exist today, rather than profitable gain? I don't know what the purpose-driven statement is, but for me as an employee, this would inspire me to think of more innovative ideas. So moving on from the first part is starting with the why, is how. How make sustainability a part of everything we do. So a guidance to that would be, for instance, create a hub. It could be, for instance, like a research and development group for testing new ideas. And you can also launch small, small scale pilots. Where I'm working at the moment, we do that all the time. And then, of course, using agile methods, which I think is really useful. You know, I spoke to a lot of economists and people that aren't designers, and they're not necessarily familiar about everything that we do with design principles and agile methods, but you can use it in helping with these statements. So it could be, for instance, testing ideas on various stakeholders, A/B testing different statements for feedback. Try out the MVP canvas that my colleague Andreas is going to talk about later on today. I recommend that you go and listen to what he's got to say. You can run sprints, iterative cycles with specific time-limited goals. And of course, always important, use rapid feedback loops. Always be transparent to test new ideas and statements, whatever, and try and get feedback loops. I'm hoping that you guys will do that today after you've seen this. Send me an email, what you think. And sprints, when I'm saying sprints, it could be business sprints, could be Google design sprints, could be any type of sprints. You decide, right? Depending on the purpose. And also, what's really key is to remember to follow your statement. So the statement is constantly the Northern Star. So that's at the top. You don't move away from your statement, because when you're testing these new ideas and these new products, you need to have something, you know, a baseline. You need to have a context to follow. And it could be that when you're testing ideas, that your statement changes a bit, that you realize like, you know what, this statement's it's a bit unclear. Let's simplify even better, or let's make it a bit more unique. And maybe in some cases it can feel a bit like greenwashing. So you can use these guidances to try and change your statement. Because the statement needs to work over time. It's not something that's just going to function for a year. I see it as something that's going to last for a while. So remember the Northern Star. At the very end, when you've gone from why and you move from how, you move from the last bit, which is what. What actions must we take to achieve our sustainability goals? So now we're turning purpose into action. And this is really key, because it's wonderful to study a year and reading theories from all these economists, and many of them are using different frameworks, which as a designer I look at them and I want to sort of fix them a bit. You know, it's just how we are. We're a bit of a difficult type of people like that. But more importantly, I want to use them, and I want to move on to deliverables. I want to see, how does this actually work in the real world, rather than just be theory. So we want to do something practical about it. So one way of doing it is these guidance lists here that I've written. You establish clear goals that align with the purpose statement, and you break down complex strategies or roadmaps or whatever you're using, and visualize opportunities using tools like service blueprints or value chains. But what you want to do is that you want to map out the journey. How is this going to look? Move away from reports with several pages up and down with text, because it's really difficult to align everyone if we're not looking at the same map, and we're not dealing with the same questions and pinpointing where the pains are. So we need this service blueprint or a value chain or journey mapping to help us, guide us. And then you use those visuals and that map to define measurable metrics to track progress. And one way of doing it is KPIs or OKRs, whatever people prefer. And then at the end, you have to share openly successes and failures. And that creates trust and alignment. And I think it's really important with sharing, constantly sharing and holding on to transparency, because that also attracts people that want to come and work for you as well. They want to do this. They see that you're sharing and you're making an effort to help change the world in the right direction. So sharing failures and successes are really important. So going to the last bit, this is the last page. I want you to take part in my the experiment. I hope that you would send me a request, and I'll send you this framework. And the framework will also have more details and templates on how to guide you. But test it out, test the framework, send me feedback, please send me feedback. And then very important that you always credit. I'm going to give a credit list of all the people that I want to credit, but also that you credit where it comes from. So if you can do this, then that would be great, being part of my experiment. So I'm very curious to find out what you think, good or bad. Hope it's not all bad, but and let's just create a better and sustainable world in the future. Thanks.